doing moot court again. Well, thank you for all coming out. Really appreciate it. This is the Federalist Society, the Valparaiso chapter. Just some housekeeping. You'll see that some of your professors are here. Just because they're here does not mean that they accept nor reject Ms. Sommers' viewpoints. They're here because it's a fascinating topic. Also, if there are any questions, please limit your questions so that way other students have a chance to ask their questions. At this time, I just want to introduce my executive board. That's Seth Gray over there on the far left. He's the vice president. Jared Vasilauskis. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too bad. Our third year, I think I should get your name down by then. He's the secretary, and Lauren Hewish on the far right. She is our treasurer, and I'm Joel Franklin, the president. Just briefly want to mention the Federalist Society mission statement. The Federalist Society is a nonpartisan, conservative/libertarian organization dedicated to fostering balance and open debate about the fundamental principles of freedom, federalism, and judicial restraint. The Federalist Society seeks to educate the legal community through its programs and publications about limited constitutional government based on the rule of law and how it can have a positive effect on public policy. I'd like to introduce Ms. Sommers. She is a resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. Before joining AEI, she was professor of philosophy at Clark University, where she specialized in moral theory. Her articles have been published in a plethora of journals like the Journal of Philosophy, the New England Journal of Medicine, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the New Republic, the Weekly Standard, and the Atlantic, and I'm sure I'm missing probably about 15 to 20 others. Sommers is the editor of Vice and Virtue and Everyday Life, which is a leading college ethics textbook. And she's also the author of Who Stole Feminism and The War Against Boys. The latter was the New York Times Notable Book of the Year. Her most recent book, co-authored by her AEI colleague, Sally Sadel, is One Nation Under Therapy. She has appeared on numerous television programs, including 60 Minutes, The Oprah Winfrey Show, and twice on Comedy Central's The Daily Show. I've watched some of the clips. They're really good. You should just Google Christina Hoff Sommers Daily Show. It'll be worth your time. She has also lectured and taken part in debates at more than 100 college campuses. So please give a round of applause for Ms. Christina Hoff Sommers.
Thank you. Well, it's lovely to be here. Beautiful town, and it's fantastic. I am Christina Hoff Sommers from the American Enterprise Institute, and for the past several years I have studied the influence of feminism on American culture, with a special focus on campus feminism. And I became interested in the fate of boys because for many years I read in the feminist literature and from the leading women's groups that girls were being shortchanged in our classrooms. And as I began to look at more of the data, and in the course of books that I've written on the influence of feminism on American culture, I found that there was a certain amount of misinformation, if you will, and the area where I found the most level of inadequacy of information was surrounding young men in this society. And initially no one listened to me, and the book, when the War Against Boys came out, it was very controversial. Now almost everyone's heard about the fate of boys, and people are writing books now called The End of Men. So we went from denying the problem that men and boys were in trouble, and now we're declaring your total demise for the young men in this room. I don't agree that it's the end of men. I certainly don't wish it to be, but there are some serious concerns. And I'll just begin with a story about a debate I had, because I'm going to try to talk a bit about the role lawyers have played in the war against boys. I was on, I think it was Crossfire, years ago, on CNN, a debate with a feminist lawyer, Gloria Allred. She was suing the Boy Scouts for excluding girls, and she referred to it as gender apartheid. And I tried I was arguing with her, and I tried to point out that there are differences between boys and girls, and I gave her an example that I thought was amusing. She did not. And the example is this one. Years ago, a toy company, Hasbro Toys in Providence, Rhode Island, conducted an experiment. They had a toy they wanted to sell to both boys and girls. And to find a toy that will interest boys as much as girls, girls as much as boys, this is the holy grail of toy manufacturing, because it doubles your profits. And there are very few toys that break through. There's some famous ones. You ask a toy manufacturer and they'll say, oh yes, Mr. Potato Head and the Slinky. Those are not marked by gender. Boys and girls will play with them, but it's very hard to find other such toys. Anyway, Hasbro was working on making something sort of halfway between a playhouse and a fort, I guess. I don't know how that would work, but it was mainly a playhouse. And they brought the boys and girls in to play. And the girls came and played constructively. There were dolls, there was a baby carriage, there was a kitchen. And these were young children, 4 and 5. The boys came in and without exception grabbed the toy baby carriage, climbed up onto the roof and catapulted it from the roof. And the psychologists who were in the laboratory said, oh my God, they really are different. Anyway, I told that story to Gloria Allred, and her reaction was, if there are boys catapulting baby carriages off the roofs of dollhouses, that's just one more reason we should re-socialize boys. And I think she saw this action as predictive of violence or some kind of havoc. The fact is, boys and girls are different. There are exceptions. There are children who defy the stereotypes of their sex, but the majority embody them. And what are the generalizations we can make? On average, girls have better verbal skills, and boys have better spatial reasoning skills. This gives boys an advantage in math and in the math-based sciences, fields like engineering. It gives girls a huge advantage in almost any area where you have to do a lot of writing. And it's no surprise that with the advent of feminism and all these fields opened up, that you saw women pouring into fields like the law and journalism and so forth. Less so engineering and fields like the math-based sciences, physics, I would say. You certainly have far fewer women in computer technology. Overall, another difference is the way children play. Little boys, it's rough and tumble play. There's a lot of mock fighting, sound effects, running around, rambunctious, high-spirited play. Girls do it too. Having once been a little girl, I can tell you I enjoyed it up to a point, because there are lots of other things girls do. Girls' play is various. So they will do that, and then there's typical, well, a lot of times little girls, it's just with your best friend, exchanging confidences, as well as turn-taking games, and theatrical imaginative games, playing house, playing school. Boys hardly do that compared to girls. A third difference is talking about feelings, and just talking about, and just recently, there was an excellent study by several psychologists at the University of Missouri. They wanted to find out about what they call problem talk. You have a problem. And they interviewed, these were, I guess, in this case they were older children. They were boys, junior high and high school, and girls in junior high and high school. And they found that most of the girls, a significant number, like to talk about their problems with their friends. And they said it made them feel better, it made them think that they felt safer, they felt cared for. Very big difference with the boys. They said they didn't particularly like it. And the researchers wanted to find out, well, is it because, as some of the gender scholars say, they have a mask of masculinity, they're hiding their feelings, they're terrified, they look weak? No, it wasn't. That was not the reason the boys gave. The boys, well, there were two reasons. One was they just thought it was a waste of time. And the second reason, that it was weird. And what they concluded is that if you're a parent, or it probably applies to husbands as well, wives, if you want your husband to talk, or you want a boy to talk and he won't tell you anything, just to talk about problems for the sake of talking about problems, they won't do it. But if you say there's a problem to solve, or you can show them a very practical reason why they should talk about their problems, apparently they're willing to do it. But it wasn't it's a striking difference. And women are much better at identifying. If you show a series of photos of faces, women are much better at identifying the emotions of the men. If you ask men, psychologists have asked, a demographically correct group of men and women, what emotions did you have this week? And they ask women. And with women, it's all over the place. They have highs and lows, and they have a very elaborate emotional vocabulary. And you ask guys, and it's usually, they could say one or two things. And striking difference. So with males and females, but particularly I'm talking about children, with boys and girls, it's the verbal skills with the girls, much more interested in engaging personally and talking over problems and feelings and so forth. And the different styles of play, the rough and tumble play. Now, why are they like this? In some, not all, but in many women's studies departments, gender studies department, it's kind of a dogma. It's socially constructed, and society did this to them. It's certainly partly cultural, but there's some very tantalizing evidence that it's not only cultural. Just two examples. There's a group of girls who are afflicted with a genetic disorder called congenital adrenal hyperplasia, CAH girls. And people study them a lot because we couldn't possibly, inject girls with male hormones and then watch what they do. It would be immoral and horrible. But these girls were born that way. They were exposed to high levels of male hormones in the fetus, and it's a genetic condition. And they're masculinized in utero, and they have the same play preferences as boys. The rough and tumble play, if you give them a choice of dolls or gadgets and rockets, and they go towards the toys the boys go to. It's one example, one hint that there's more going on than social construction. The second is simply that we see this in other species. The highly organized primates, chimpanzees and gorillas, and they did some experiments with vervet monkeys, male and female monkeys. Now, I don't see how this could be socially constructed, and the baby girl monkeys gravitated towards what looked like little dollies, and they were more playing mothering play, and the male monkeys were rough and tumbling, and they chose the object to play with, the shiny object. There's a lot. It's a huge debate. We're not going to resolve that today. But I'm simply telling you there are these differences. Oh, one other thing I should add is there is never, I usually don't say never as a philosopher. You have to be careful. There's always an exception. I think I can say that without risking being hyperbolic. No one has ever found a society where these are reversed. And the men are verbal and love to talk about their emotions and play with dolls and prefer turn-taking games. And the women are have the superior spatial reasoning skills and don't like sort of shut down and stoical and so forth. We've never seen that. We've never seen children reverse their play preferences. You'll find some differences, but even in a society like, I don't know, where they really try hard to eliminate sex differences in Sweden or Norway, it hasn't worked. And you would think that there would be some society where you'd see an example. Another thing is boys are greater risk takers, and they're just wilder. And again, universally, we see that they're much more likely to get hurt. If you look at the injuries of 3-year-old, 4-year-old boys, as soon as they're mobile, there are more injuries cross-culturally. Wilder, more obstreperous play, and so forth. Now, another difference, this is pretty universal, but it's getting very serious. Girls are better students. Girls get better grades, and they win the prizes.